So leading large and multidisciplinary teams through transparent expectations. Just to give you a little bit about myself, I'm a professor of STEM education and a director of STEM Education Research and Innovation Center. Over past several years, I had the privilege of managing more than $10 million in research funding as a principal or co-principal investigator, working across both in the United States, UK, Canada, and other countries, while also overseeing center's operational budget range of funded projects. These projects have been varied widely, some small teams of 2 or 3 people working on tightly focused projects, or other involving more than 200, 300 individuals and participants across institutions, disciplines, and even countries. Through these experiences, I've learned often that hard way that managing projects is less about keeping a perfect schedule or keeping a perfect book about managing people systems. It's all about managing uncertainty. It's managing communication and making sure that the things are very clear across all the interactions. Today, I want to share a few lessons I've learned along the way and some tools I've developed or adapted that help me as a project management in a more effective, humane, and a sustainable way. Today we will look at closer how clarity, communication, and structure work differently in complex teams. And I will also show some frameworks like Brown's task and systems thinking approaches that can help lead us projects that are effective, but wisely with shared accountability and commitment. So to give you a little bit of a background, so why do we talk about project management today? As we know, traditional leadership is built on a predictability, command, control, and compliance. This type of leadership might have worked in the functional systems. But our projects today are dynamic networks of expertise. No one single leader can know enough to control them, or no one leader can know everything to be able to actually produce innovation. We now call what Gardner calls as a projectified world, where work is increasingly organized through temporary cross-functional collaborations rather than stable departments. In this complex innovation ecosystem, like large-scale STEM collaborations that I do with the climate adaptation projects or AI development, traditional hierarchies cannot manage expertise of diversity. So research shows that leadership has to shift from command and control to sense-making, coordination, and clarity. So what do we mean by that? For instance, here I have images for you of what we traditionally know as a functional organizational structure. I'm assuming some of it is still present in Kazakhstan, right? So when we think of organizations, we think about the departments we have in, let's say, engineering department, we have marketing department, we have a finance department, and we have specialists that work in each department. We have specialists like engineers who work in that department. If it's marketing, then the marketers work in that department. Whatever the specialty, the people from the same specialty work together. In this traditional model, function-based structures, people were grouped by what they do, by their specialty. Each department focused on its each specialized tasks, often operating in relative isolation. Thinking of a company as a set of parallel silos, each doing its own kind of work across sectors. However, work is no longer defined by these departments. But in today's world is actually defined by the projects, dynamic collaborations that assemble these diverse specialties, like I shown in the right. Like, for instance, there's a project A and there's a engineering person, marketing person, finance person, or all different specialties come together to actually achieve the same goal. So in a project-based structure, work is organized as around specific goals and deliverables. Projects that require bringing together people from different functions temporarily to achieve similar outcomes. So in this kind of system, then we actually require according to the research, a different kind of leadership, right? So traditional leadership, if it was about being like efficient and compliant, top-down, autocratic, the project-based leaderships then require in a complex system a network of relationships between the people, right? It's if we want innovation and engagement, different ideas, then we need autonomous, independent thinking. At the same time, collaborative people. Then how does project management as a new form of leadership works? So here are different models that I came across when I became a leader. I was becoming a leader to really understand my own role. How do I manage all these projects? And what does it mean? What does leadership mean in my context when I'm working with different experts around myself who could be AI experts, who can be computer science experts, who could be engineering experts. You know, everybody came with different kind of expertise areas, or who I also have lots of PhD students and doctoral students who we here in the United States see them as colleagues. So how do I handle the leadership in these big projects? So currently, there are frameworks that emphasize democratic coaching and adaptive models of leadership, where the leader's job is not to direct, but to enable shared understanding. So each one of them have specific roles, like let's say transformational leader the goal is to be consistent, to be motivational, and then support everybody in the team so that eventually there is a distributed leadership among the members. However, it's much easier said than done. What do I mean by that? Project management and multidisciplinary teams, in my opinion, it was very hard to handle. And I will give you some examples. So when we think about the projects where multiple people are working and who come from multiple different backgrounds, the research says that they are uniquely difficult beneath, even though everybody wants to do them. First, they require translational work, not just coordination, right? People speak different disciplinary language, use different methods, even value systems, and different work ethic. A good project leader then is not only about to set goals, but also build shared understanding. Then there is a communication load. You know, more people come together, it's less clear who is supposed to do what. You have always people who will do more, and you will have always people who will do less. You will have always people who will overwork, and you will always have people who are barely showing up to work, right? And then there is a team psychology. Like when people do not feel they are appreciated, or if they are overworking or underworking, right? It also impacts the team's psychology. So all of this actually costs to the overall well-being of the project, right? So what can be done about that? According to the research, solving these type of problems is not necessarily about so-called management, but it's about creating conditions for trust, clarity, and courage across the boundaries. And this is what I'm planning to talk today. So for example, I will give you a specific example from, let's say, how some of the projects work in my team. So here is a project structure. We have a project manager, responsibilities, right, to communicate, plan, manage, track. So everything is very clear. On the other side, we also have a project team responsibilities, right? We know what team is supposed to do. We have meetings weekly. We follow the progress of each individual, right? But still, we are finding that the interdynamics of the team, there's not always clear in relation to who is doing what, or some people overwork, some people, are not clear and therefore are not doing what they're supposed to do. So we had to figure out, how do we make sure that we are all clear? And what I'm going to be using in this presentation is this idea: clarity is kind, right? So here is a real world scenario for you. Imagine a multidisciplinary research project on climate health modeling. The project manager assumes each individual is progressing, but data science person is stuck waiting on parameters from epidemiologist, who says he's overloaded reviewing ethics documentation. Meetings report progress, but the actual work is lagging. Why? Because work is not getting done. So two people are over-functioning to compensate while others don't even realize there is a dependency gap. The structure looks clear, but the system lacks feedback visibility, right? So there is a person who is overworking. There are people who are saying, they cannot get to it. So there is constant, actually negative loop. Why? Because it's because work is not getting done. It costs you money. It also it costs anxiety among the group because the progress is not where it's supposed to be in a timely manner. And here is something that we came up as a team to actually make sure that we are all clear in relation to what we are doing, and that we are also individually accountable to the collective progress. It's called Brown's task method. So task is a simple but powerful accountability framework that helps teams clarify expectations before work begins. So task stands for task, authority, success, and checklist. So each piece maps to a question. What's the task? Let's say we are working on a project, so each person has a task. So what is the task that they need to do so that this project can be successful? Who has the authority to make decision about the task, right? Let's say if we are building an AI model and a group is working on the LLM, what kind of authority do they have to make decisions in relation to the model if we have different teams working on the same project? What does success look like? So this is a very interesting part because, a lot of times when we do weekly meetings, right, we assign tasks, but then we also found out that when the assigned task is brought to the meeting to be seen by the others, or evaluated, the ways in which it's presented could be different than what was expected by others. So we had to draw out loud mental models speaking about what does success look like? Does it look like a published paper? Does it look like a website? Does it look like an AI working, let's say, next week, and being able to use by the users? What does, success look like in 1 week, in 2 weeks, in each steps of the project? What does it mean to be successful with each completion? So, and then what steps and checkpoints and support systems are there? And so before launching a project or delegating a work within the project, we walk through this checklist to ensure clarity, boundaries, and shared understanding in our team. So it's less of a management checklist. For me, it's more about the leadership clarity tool. It builds the shared mental model that allows distributed team to coordinate without constant supervision. And I want to give you an example. So this is actually from my team. So here is a task self-reflection that each member of my team does after our team meetings, after we know each person, about the project and what was assigned to each person. So each person actually goes through the components and answers the questions out loud, sharing with everybody, and then sends out an email to a project manager so that we are all on the same page in relation to what each person is doing, not from project manager's perspective, but the person's own perspective in relation to how they understand the task. For instance, first question, the person is supposed to answer, what exactly I'm responsible for? So clarity on the goal and the role. The second is, what decisions am I empowered to make? So can I just make a decision? However, if I'm building an LLM model, do I have a decision to make it the way I believe it's supposed to do? So ownership and leadership. Support. What supports do I need if I need help? Who do I go to? What kind of materials do I need? Do I have enough technology? What kind, making a list of the things that are needed and ahead of time, making sure that you have all those things. And then communication. How do I communicate the progress, issues, and needs? Right? What are the timelines for those communications? And then finally, what does success or done looks like? So let's say if the person is supposed to report back to the group in a week, what would success look like in a week? So share that mental model with us. So each team member actually completes this task plus reflection before meetings, sharing them publicly, which for us builds trust, transparency, and they hold themselves accountable for this. Then the core feedback loops, we build a healthy system. Why? Because everybody knows what everybody is doing. Again, not from project manager's perspective, but from the person's perspective as well. And everybody is ready to help. So they know where the progress is happening. So here I want to show you an example from the real assignment. I changed the name of the my team member to Alyssa to as a pseudonym to protect her identity. But this is, for instance, one of the task classes that I modified that she submitted in one of our meetings. So she said, analyze, so her task was apparently analyze all student interviews conducted since 2019 to identify key themes, patterns, and insights relevant to, and then she had her research topic. And then it says she has authority to define initial coding framework, decide which analysis methods, tools to use. And there is a names of the methods. It could be in vivo, it could be spreadsheet, it could be another coding system, and then flag interviews or codes that need team input or ethical review. So she knows already all the authority she has. She also says what she doesn't have an authority for. She says she does not have a final say on how themes are written up for a publication. This will be reviewed by the team. And then check meeting with John, 3 days to ensure, in 3 days to ensure alignment on analysis direction, bi-weekly updates via Slack or during meetings, midpoint review by, she had an insert a date, first draft of the theme for the team feedback, she had the date, and then what does done look like? Here she said we can break this into multiple deliverables, done will come in stages. So I'm assuming that at that point in that week, she did not exactly knew what would the done would look like in a week. So I'm assuming she would figure it out as she goes along, and then she will update this. So this was her task assignment reflection that she completed after the meeting. And then she also completes this to before the next meeting to make sure that we are staying on the same page. So why this works, right? First, this type of like a tool operationalizes self-leadership, self-accountability. When each person defines their own task, authority, and dependency, they're engaging in what Carl Weick calls sense-making, aligning interpretation under uncertainty. Here, clarity is not just information in relation to what people are doing or micromanagement, because nobody's actually quote unquote managing the individuals. It's about coordinated understanding what work is happening, who is doing what, so that everybody is clear. Second, it distributes responsibility and leadership for clarity. Instead of one person managing alignment, right, the whole team shares it. So research reminds us that most projects do not fail from chaos. Chaos is actually can be sometimes helpful. They fail from illusion of control or illusion that the progress is happening, right? So collective clarity replaces control with coherence. And third, it builds psychological and mental and cognitive safety through transparency, right? So research shows by Edmonds that the trust and clarity are inseparable. People feel safe when expectations are explicit and shared. And when expectations are vague, ambiguous, people left with not being sure where to start and what to complete. And they start to protect themselves instead of collaborating, right? So clarity is not micromanagement. It's about being kind to one each other. It's how we turn emotional intelligence into measurable team performance. So in short, for me, clarity reduces cognitive load, increases accountability, and builds psychological safety among the team members. So finally, I want to leave you with with this, the graphic, right? A lot of times when we think about any kind of project, when we imagine any kind of project, we think about people coming together at the table, it's this ideal version. Everybody's expert, everybody knows what they're doing, and they decide to do something, and then work happens. So we think about initial, this is where we begin often, and then this is we think, okay, this is where we end up, right? On the left, what we assume that the project moves neatly from planning to completion. And if we will have like a, crystal clear, management, then everything works as it's supposed to be. And effort and outcome aligned predictability. That's what we assume. We think linearly about things. On the right, what actually happens is a feedback loops. And that's what I've tried to show you in relation to Task Plus, that we need to build systems, right? And it requires feedback loops, revisions, resubmissions, evaluation, learning. It's messy, it's human, it's system we really live in, right? So we need constant, clear communication in relation to what's happening, how it's happening, from the person's perspective in relation to work. So the lesson I've learned after managing millions of dollars in research and working with teams from different, from 3 to 200 people, that the project management goal is not about controlling the structure or not setting up the perfect structure. It's also about learning how to work within those structures and creating systems, creating relationships, right? Being clear and kind. So being direct sometimes is considered unkindness, but in the project, being direct in relation to what is expected is the most kindest way to make sure that everybody's on the same page, right? So Task Plus helped us to do that. It brought clarity to my team, feedback loop and a reflection loop. So we stopped pretending that the projects are linear, and then we can actually go back and see where the negative loop is, where the positive loop is, and we try to balance it to make sure that our cost and our goals and the time that we put into them are all aligned. Okay. Thank you so much for your listening, and you can my presentation is over. I'm sorry. I'm also trying to look at the messages. I'm not sure if this is for me, but if you have any questions, I'm open to questions.
No questions asked. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
There is a really good comment about the ways in which governors work or mayors work. And of course, I think this is a really great example, right? But what they are doing is they are meeting their stakeholders. And of course, meeting with the stakeholders and knowing your stakeholders is one of the most important jobs of the governors or any kind of leadership body. At the same time, though, when you are managing projects, yes, first of all, you need to know your stakeholders. That's exactly doing what you were saying that you are doing. However, like in my own experience, democratic leadership does not always work when you are managing big tasks. Why? Because one of the assumptions of the democratic leadership is that everybody knows what they're doing. Everybody is committed. Everybody is committed as much as you are, and everybody is clear in relation to what they're supposed to be doing, right? But that's an idealized version that almost never works in the beginning. In the beginning, what worked for me and what I hear from other leaders, what worked for them is the mentorship model, right? Like supporting everybody, to make sure that everyone is on the same page, that everyone's voices are heard, and everyone feels comfortable. So I've been using a combination of mentorship model along with the democratic model. And the difference is that the mentorship model also allows you to be available and to show up and to support when help is needed without assuming that everybody's voice is heard. You make sure that the people's voices are heard.